Welcome, everyone, to Asian Pacific Voices Radio, where you'll find stimulating conversations that explore diverse topics and stories that impact our Asian Pacific American communities. I'm your host, Sasha Fu. Our guest today has had some 30 years of experience in politics and public service. Fiona Ma is the California State Treasurer at present, serving as the banker for the world's fifth largest economy. Before her election as state treasurer, Fiona Ma served on the California Board of Equalization, the California State Assembly, and before that, she was a San Francisco supervisor. As a lawmaker, she's authored groundbreaking legislation in the fields of the environment and criminal justice. Looking ahead to the election in 2026, she's going to be a candidate for the office of California Lieutenant Governor. Welcome, Fiona. Thanks for joining us for this conversation today.
Thank you, Sasha.
So let's start out. How does a nice Chinese American girl like you, growing up in Long Island, New York, become an influential mover and shaker in the world of politics? Tell us more about your family and your Asian roots.
Yeah, so I am the oldest child of immigrant parents. My parents left China when they were very young, immigrated to Hong Kong, met in Canada, and then decided to settle down in New York. My maternal grandfather was a minister, so he traveled around a lot, and my mom was an only child, and my father was from a big family, so one of the youngest ones. And when he left China for Hong Kong, he was basically on his own, had to learn Cantonese, put himself through school, and so just very independent. So they decided to settle down in New York. I grew up in Great Neck, Long Island, had a pretty good childhood, did all the normal things every girl does. I was only one of 6 minority kids, though, in my school. But I played sports, I played instruments, did everything, synchronized swimming, brownies and Girl Scouts, just did and tried a lot. And then decided to go to the Rochester Institute of Technology in New York, where I studied accounting. And then after I graduated, my parents decided to move to San Francisco. So I joined them out there. Took a job with one of the big 8 accounting firms in the real estate tax group, stayed for 5 years, got all my audit hours, got my master's in taxation, and then started my own practice at the age of 28 years old because there were really no women or minority partners at the time. And that's how I got started in public office as the president of the Asian Business Association.
But that is a pretty big leap from going from the world of accountants to politics and public service. When you, as you said, became the president of the Asian Business Association, did you have any inkling that this was going to be a calling for you?
No, I became president because the president and the chair said that I could get clients quickly if I became the president. But that opened up my eyes to politics and who we were trying to lobby for more contracting opportunities for women and minority businesses, the mayor, the board of supervisors. I went up to Sacramento, even got involved in the White House conference under Bill Clinton at the time, President Bill Clinton. And it seemed like we were always like begging and asking and, following all these politicians. And so that's kind of what started is like, who are these people? How did they get in that position of power where everybody has to go to them, for money or contracts or, laws?
Well, going back to those days when you were kind of learning the ropes, did you find it was a steep learning curve?
It definitely was, but I was with a couple of gentlemen at the time, Harold Yee and Frank Fung, who really were pushing us to get more involved in politics, to go and get appointed to different boards and commissions, and eventually, to run for office myself or ourselves. And a bunch of us, did run, but clearly this is something that I was interested in, I'm passionate about, and now is my calling. So I'm out of the whole cohort of folks that came up, through Asian Inc. and the Coalition of Asian American Business Association. I'm pretty much the only one that's still around and in elected office.
So when you said encouraging us to run for public office, you're speaking particularly of Asian business owners, Asians in general?
Yeah, so under CABA, the Coalition of Asian Business Associations, we had the Asian Business Association, which is small business owners, Asian American architects and contractors,
Mm-hmm.
Asian American CPAs and attorneys, and then Asian American, did I say architects and engineers,
Mm-hmm.
CPAs, contractors, and then also ABA. So there were four like sister organizations. And then we had also voter education arm, the California Chinese American Voter Education Committee. So there was about five different organizations that all work together to try to empower and also try to get more business opportunities for our community.
Well, back in the mid 90s, was there a dearth of opportunities for Asian business owners and other Asian professionals? Did you really identify a need to have a stronger voice and have more people at the table?
Well, of course, there is contracting opportunities all the time, whether they're private
Mm-hmm.
companies or the state or local governments, and they're always trying to, encourage more vendors to submit, their bids, for example. So
Right.
if you're not big enough, a lot of times you're not chosen. But how do you become bigger unless you are chosen, right? So that's always the kind of dilemma with our minority communities is, we can do the job. We are capable, we're qualified, we want to get the jobs, but sometimes we're face these artificial barriers.
Hmm. Well, that kind of touches on something I've been thinking about. I think there's this pervasive stereotype about Asian Americans that we are the quote model minority, the minority group that just goes along and is kind of quietly compliant with stuff and doesn't really put up much of a fuss when things aren't maybe when things are inequitable. We don't really complain loudly. But politics, by its very nature, rewards those who are taking a risk to speak out and say, no, that's not right. So, as you advanced in your career in politics, did you find any conflicts, maybe even internal conflicts, between this idea of how to be an effective political leader and what was expected of you as an Asian woman, particularly a woman who is in the political sphere?
Yes. So in my family, I had a tiger dad. So my dad is extremely smart and he's definitely the leader. My mom was an artist and an art teacher and she had depression. So she did not talk a lot. So unlike some families where the mother really takes control of the household and the finances and the kids, it was really my dad. So growing up under my father, we didn't really have at our dinner table, we didn't talk about world affairs or, politics. It was really like, did you get good grades?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. You got good grades. That's all they really cared about, right? So I learned to listen well. I think even though I wasn't taught to speak out and have debates and be confrontational, like my family is very, very passive aggressive. When people are upset with each other, it's never go to the source. It's like go to someone else that is the messenger that tries to I
Yeah.
think that's kind of typical in a lot of Asian families. So you know I've obviously carried on some of those traits as an adult, but I've had to learn other traits. The fact that, I was raised that way, I think I'm a better listener. I would always prefer to listen, to ask questions, than speak myself, right? I just had a Zoom call for 45 minutes and I may have said, I don't know, 20 words. But I took a lot of notes and that, gives me better insight into what is actually happening out there when you talk to more people and you actually listen. So that's what I got from my childhood. But what I've had to learn is how to defend myself, how to speak up when
Mm-hmm.
something is not right. How to be a little bit more aggressive and assertive without seeming like, you know, the words that are given to women when they're too assertive and too
Yes.
aggressive, right? And so, what is that
Yes.
balance, of that yin and yang?
I think in some cases it's impossible because I think for women, the stereotypes around speaking out and taking a stand on something, some folks, I won't say who, but I mean, well, I could just say, some men find that a bit threatening. And, there, as you said, there are some pejorative words for women who are not afraid to speak their mind.
Right, right.
Um, as Speaker of the California Assembly, which is a huge job, of course, you're chosen for that. Um, how did you feel you made a difference?
Yeah, so I was Speaker Pro Tem in my last 2 years. So that means a deputy speaker. So number two, the speaker wasn't able to do the duties or, I would step in. So I think I made a difference because when anybody came into the chambers, they would see an Asian woman actually running the floor, right? And for Asian Americans who, who were coming to Sacramento and seeing that, I think it opened people's eyes. Wow, how did she get there? Right?
Mm-hmm.
How is she running the floor? And
Mm-hmm.
being able to run the floor meant I had to have really good relationships with my colleagues. Otherwise, things get out of control, tempers flare, people feel slighted that they didn't get enough time to speak or that they weren't chosen to speak. So just being able to coordinate and be organized. I'm always on time or early. And I think people appreciated that because in the past, members would trickle in. And I was always like, hey, we're going. Members, if you're not here, I'm going to call you out. You need to come to the floor. So I ran a very, very efficient floor. And because of my relationships, I was able to accommodate people's needs. Sometimes they had flights, sometimes they had lunches. That's what I think being a leader is about trying to work with your colleagues, trying to collaborate and trying to take out a lot of the stress that is there when you're not being, what do I say, being, polite or treating people with respect.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to be treated
Sure.
with respect. We all got elected representing our own districts, and I treated everyone with that same amount of respect.
That's great. Well, I want to touch a little bit on your present job as a treasurer of the state of California. In a nutshell, without getting too granular, what does that job involve or entail?
Okay, so there are 8 statewide elected officials: the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, state treasurer, state controller, superintendent of public instruction, and the insurance commissioner. So I'm one of 8 statewide elected officials. I am the banker. So all the revenues come into my office. Last year was about $3.7 trillion. I invest whatever the state is not using, and I issue all the bonds for the state of California, the UC and CSU systems. I also chair 14 boards that funds and finances affordable housing, hospitals, children's hospitals, public transportation, green energy, advanced manufacturing. I have 5 savings programs, and I sit on CalPERS, CalSTRS, California Earthquake Authority, the iBank. So anything financial, I am either chairing or I am a voting member. So I always say if anybody needs money, wants money, please come see me.
Okay. I mean, just listening to the number of boards and committees you sit on is, well, it's intimidating to me. It's exhausting. I'm wondering, when do you sleep? I'm very curious about the 2020 pandemic, and you were treasurer, of course, at that time. How did we fare as a state? And what were some of the challenges of getting through that period? And how did the pandemic affect the state's finances? And what impacts are we seeing from that today?
Yeah. So obviously, during the pandemic, I am the bank, so I cannot close. If I shut down, then the whole state would have shut down. That's how important I believe the treasurer's office is. So 100 people came into the office every day. I came into the office because being, the captain of the ship, I believe you need to be there because otherwise people will say, well, where's the treasurer? She's scared of coming in because of COVID, yet we're coming in. So I went in every day and walked around, thanked all my employees, for their dedication and being there. I was kind of pleasantly surprised that the first year of COVID, we had a surplus of about $45 billion. And you think about it, when everybody is home, how
Mm-hmm.
did we have a surplus,
I don't know.
right? We are highly dependent in the state of California on personal income tax, corporation tax, and sales taxes. So if you think about it, everybody stayed here in the state and they spent their money in the state, right? They still were buying things online, buying, trucks and cars and boats and RVs. So our sales taxes were good. Personal income taxes was also good because the tech industry, right, because of COVID, they had to ramp up all of their applications and operations. So they were still issuing stock bonuses, stock options. There were still mergers, acquisitions, right? And so the personal income taxes were also really good, and corporation taxes because the companies were doing well. Second year, we faced a $95 billion surplus. Again, that's almost double what we had in the first year. And kind of the similar scenarios, right? Interest rates were low. People were still buying and selling property, even if it was online. Everybody kind of adjusted to the new normal. And then now the third year, we are facing a deficit of about $50 billion because things have changed, right? The tech company has been laying off workers. Workers haven't been coming back to work, so we're having problems in our commercial sectors. The interest rates have not helped in terms of buying and selling, property and things. And so that's kind of where we are at this moment. And then, oh, I forgot, we had 9 months of a SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild strike. And Hollywood does generate a lot of money for the state of California. When actors are in blockbuster like the Tom Cruises or the Ashton Kutchers, right? They're making a lot of money. They're paying a lot of income taxes. And so everything stopped in that industry. So, hopefully we've been waiting, hoping that the feds would decrease the rates. That should stimulate some of the investors to come into the market again. And, just trying to get people back to work.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. Also, though, during the COVID period, the federal government was pitching in and giving states extra money to help prop up some of the businesses that were in danger of folding or failing. So I'm sure that helped. But now that that federal
Yes.
COVID money has gone, what are some of the strategies that are being talked about to overcome this deficit?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the question of the day, right? Are workers going to come back? I was just on a call with some of the janitors who service these big commercial buildings in the downtown corridors. Can we make our city centers destination centers again, right? Can we provide childcare facilities in these buildings to encourage parents to come back to work because now they can bring their children to the childcare center? Like, how are we going to reimagine post-COVID what is happening? And so it's happening in all different industries, right? The homelessness crisis increased because as people, were getting money during COVID and now they're not getting money, that is also impacting, people's pocketbooks. Costs are going up, right? Utility costs, insurance costs, property taxes continue to always rise, yet some people's income is limited or fixed. So we have just a lot of challenges, and we have to think about how we're going to bring more investors to come to California. We need to keep the companies here. We want them to expand and grow, and we need high quality jobs. That is essential. And so as we're looking at technology, those are high paying jobs, right? Biotech, stem cell research. We have to kind of make sure those industries do well, and then hopefully build more housing to deal with the housing crisis, because that is also a barrier for people to come, stay, and grow here.
So you have to be kind of an expert on so many different aspects of not only economy, environment, social justice, criminal justice system, housing. What is your favorite area to focus on?
Well, I'm a real estate tax accountant, so I kind of am a geek when it comes to commercial, buildings, right? Housing,
Yeah.
development, renovations, retrofits, reimagining, right? property and real estate. So that's kind of my favorite, I would say. And then all of my savings programs. I have 5 savings programs. My parents started saving money, putting money into dividend reinvestment stocks from me, my brother, and my sister since we were babies. And because of that, I did not have student loan debt, and I actually had extra money after that I could use for graduate school, start a business, or buy a house. And so I decided to buy a 2-unit building in San Francisco. And building equity, that is the way that you can create not only wealth for you, but generational wealth going down, the generations, right? Equity, buying your home, that I think is the American dream.
I'm curious also, Fiona, since you spend so much time in San Francisco and live there and have properties, there's this doom loop they call about what's happening to cities like San Francisco, where there's a rise in crime. Some very prominent city companies, rather, are moving out. They don't feel it's safe. Do you see happier days ahead for San Francisco? And you say you like to reimagine things. How can we restore San Francisco to its glory?
So I've been here for 35 years in San Francisco. So before the tech companies came to San Francisco, because we had a payroll tax. And when I was on the board of supervisors, that was one of the first things I tried to tackle, is to get rid of the payroll tax, because all the tech companies and biotech were in Emeryville, in Albany, in Berkeley, in Oakland, South San Francisco, but not in San Francisco. So 10 years later, Mayor Ed Lee was the mayor. David Chu led the effort to get rid of the payroll tax. And all of a sudden, all the tech companies and the biotech companies came to San Francisco. With that, all the young people, right? The innovators, the people that work hard, play hard. Restaurants, we had Michelin star restaurants, we had, amazing rooftop bars.
Sure.
I mean, it was just great. And then what happened with COVID is, the same thing that happened all over the state. San Diego kind of faced the same issue as well. But, we have sports teams, we have our Giants and we have our Chase Center. So during game days, people do come back. Can we have more eateries? People love San Francisco. I'm just started the San Francisco Farm Bureau, and tonight is our first meeting, really to encourage people to think about, where our food is grown, that farm to fork mentality of making sure that we support our farmers and ranchers. And food is all about, in our major cities. So can we create more pop-ups, where people want to come in and try different, venues and have the chefs and all that, right? So we need to it just can't be just the workers that come in every day, a 9 to 5. We really have to think about what people want. Travel destination, San Francisco used to be a top travel space. And post APAC, we had a very successful APAC where the 21 member economies did come with their leaders, their presidents, the prime ministers. And we need to build on that. We need to have more of those, big city events, region events. And we will be doing that with the Olympics, right? With our soccer, with our football. Big events are coming. And so hopefully we will see more people coming back into our city centers.
Hopefully we can change some perceptions, because I think right now the perception is that San Francisco is either it's not safe, there's too many unsheltered people on the street. I think we do want those conventions back. We do want to bring more restaurants in, but it's a tough environment. And I think a lot of people the psychological mindset is, I don't want to be involved in that kind of environment. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of environment. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, and the Asian community has really stepped up, because public safety is first and foremost for many of us. And during the Asian hate crimes, right? We really were scared, we were targeted. And so we have done a better job in creating our own nonprofits, getting our community members to patrol the streets, making sure the younger generation looks after the older generation a little bit more. And we want more police officers. We want more officers on the street. We do not want to defund the police. We want to feel safe at home, at work, when we're driving. We don't want to have retail theft. We don't want our cars broken into. So public safety is kind of shifting back in terms of, the priorities in San Francisco.
Looking ahead to the election in November, of course, you're up for, you're running as a candidate for lieutenant governor. And of course, there's a very important presidential election. How do we increase the participation in voting among our Asian Pacific Islander communities?
Yeah, so I'm actually running in 2026. I just
26,
started
right.
early.
Sorry.
I just started early, yeah, because there's never been an Asian American that has broken out of being controller or treasurer. I think voters believe that we're pretty good with numbers, so treasurer, controller, no problem, but kind of getting to that next level. So I started 3 years early. Things are going well, but you can see there is a important congressional race here in the Silicon Valley. Evan Lowe is the former youngest mayor of Campbell, one of the youngest members to be elected to the state assembly, and now running for Congress. And every day he is up 3 votes, down 3 votes, up 2 votes, down 2 votes. I mean, it is so close. And this is what I say to my API brothers and sisters. This is why I say every vote counts. Every vote counts, okay?
And how do you reach them?
Well, people like me, people like you, when there's something important on the ballot or candidates, we really try to push our community to come out, register to vote, make sure their voter registration is up to date. And these days, there's something called curing ballots. Everything is by mail right now. There's all mail-in ballots, and you have to sign the back of your ballot when you send it in. Some of the signatures don't match to the signature that is on file when the person registered to vote.
That's right.
So, right? A lot of us just go, okay, sign, and you just put a line in it. So if there's a line and it's not signed properly, then that
ballot is invalidated, right? Or challenged.
And then the candidate has to go take a piece of paper, go to that person's home, and get them to sign saying they really did submit the ballot and this is them, and they have to sign similar to, it's a lot of work to cure these ballots. But that's what, in this close race for Congress, that is what, Evan and his team are doing.
And you also talked, I think, about the importance of reaching people in their language, whether it's Tagalog or Korean or Vietnamese, reaching out to constituencies and saying, yeah, we understand you and we're going to offer information that is in your language. It seems like that would be very important.
Yeah, so when I campaigned for the state assembly, I had a accordion file, and I would have my bio in all different languages, probably 10 languages. So if I met someone and they said, no, I don't speak English, I'm Russian or I'm Korean or Filipino, I would actually have, my bio. And they were so impressed that I took the time to want to communicate with them. And that means that, I care about them. I see them, I value them. And, I think that is really, really important. I don't think enough candidates do that.
Okay. Well, here's a kind of a oddball question. If you weren't in public service or involved in government, what is your dream occupation? What would you envision yourself doing if you weren't doing what you're doing now? Would you be an actor? Would you be an entrepreneur? Would you be a motivational speaker? What would Fiona Ma be doing?
I would probably be in the real estate development business, something having to do with real estate, because I really do like putting the deals together, seeing something from nothing to, something that you're creating, housing or, retail, commercial. I really like that sector. So that's what I would be probably doing, if not politics.
Well, thank you for all the hard work that you've done as state treasurer. And again, I'm sorry I got the 2026 election confused, but Fiona Ma also running for lieutenant governor in 2026. Thanks so much for giving us some insight into what you do and sort of the nitty gritty, the mechanics of what goes on at the highest levels of state government. Thank you so much, Fiona.
Thank you, Sasha.
And to learn more about what Fiona's up to, can you give us some links?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm on social media every day, and I post myself on X, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So Instagram is at Fiona Ma CPA, and my Facebook is ca.fiona, and you can find me on LinkedIn very easily. So yeah, please stay connected. And I look forward to getting in touch with anyone who wants to be in touch with me.
As she said, she's a good listener too. Thanks, Fiona. And we'd love also to hear from our listeners about any suggestions for future guests or topics. Also, be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our new YouTube channel. Asian Pacific Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance. That's a nonprofit that empowers Asian and Pacific Islander communities with a voice through the media arts. If you would like to support our program, please visit AsianPacificVoicesRadio.com. Again, I'm Sasha Fu, and thanks so much for listening. Join us next week for another exciting and thought-provoking Asian Pacific Voices Radio podcast. Until then, everyone, take care.